solutions and also harnessing existing technology to simplify budgets and also to sensitize the public. So it involves civic engagement and also breaking down the budget process to be more palatable to each and every one of us, because we all know that budgets are supposed to work for the people. So if the people do not understand the process, they're not able to engage in a meaningful manner. So in a nutshell, that's what I do, and I'm also a PFM and public participation consultant. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Irene Niva. I work with an organization called Budgeti App. I think for us, we live, we eat, we sleep budgets. So for people who know us, they know that we do work that relates to public budgets, and it's just to ensure that public budgets work for people's benefits. How we do that is we do a lot of strategic advocacy. We do a lot of collaborative research with some of the partners that we work with, and time and again we conduct capacity strengthening initiatives.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Moshori John. I work with an organization called Bunge Mashinani, Parliament at the Grassroots. We are located in Kiambu. We are a grassroots organization. We deal with democracy, good governance, social accountability, civic education. Also within our organization, we have a school called Bunge Mashinani School of Governance, where we go to the community, identify community leaders, take them through a 3-month course on good governance and county principle on county budgeting, where we take them through public participation course, budget, constitution, social accountability, lobby and advocacy. Our aim focus mostly is to give power to our own communities where we come from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my panelists. I have one more person who's joined the panel, and he's a colleague of mine at TISA. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Tom Ogada. I work with the Institute for Social Accountability, that is TISA, and we work both at the national and at the county level, especially trying to bridge the gap between citizens and the government in matters social accountability, matters governance, issues budget, and our main work is to hold the duty bearers or government officials, state departments accountable, and especially to the elected leaders. We want them to adhere or to be responsive to the social contract that they signed with the citizens. So that is what TISA does and how we do it. We work on research so that we do informed advocacy. We research together with our partners in the Okoa Uchumi Coalition, and we work on issues around the public debt at the national level, and at the county level we work on areas related to pending bills, corruption, and our work currently spread across 11 counties in the country, and nationally and regionally. So basically that is what TISA does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our session right now is to just discuss issues of the budget making process and how we as a coalition engage the citizens. So I have a few questions just to ask our panel so that we give our audience an idea of the kind of work that we've been doing, how innovative we've been in trying to engage citizens and lend our voice to the budget making process in itself and governance in general. So my first question will go to Budgeti. So if as part of the coalition's budget analysis team, we've seen recently the budget policy statement came out. We were requested to give our comments and views. So what are the priorities for citizens that you may have seen, and how does the economy and its realities interlink with these priorities for citizens, and what are our key concerns?
Thanks a lot. So maybe just to start, the budget policy statement is a document that sets out the government priorities in the coming financial year. And for the financial year 2025-2026, I think somewhere around February is when the budget policy statement was tabled, and the public were required to submit their input. And I think one thing for us that stood out, based on the fact that we do an analysis of the budget policy statement alongside other budget documents that are released, is that as it was mentioned in the main session, the poverty rates have really gone up. I think the current data that we have, it states that 40% of the population is actually poor. What that means is that close to 20 million people live below the poverty line. And I think one of the things that we were looking out, even as we were analyzing the BPS, is just to check how the BPS is alive to some of these factors that we continue to see. And I think one of the things that the BPS is there's a lot of money that is being set out for cash transfers. What that means is that they'll be giving out some cash transfers to some of the individuals in some of the groups. So when you think about women, when you think about maybe people living with disabilities. But I think one concern that has been there over time is that there's no segregation of data. So even how the government does out its cash transfers, it's not in a unified manner, which at times might lead to like duplication of things. So I think for us, even as the government is responsive and adding funds that go to respond to some of the poverty needs that we see, is just to be aligned to this factor that they really need to like harmonize the data, just to ensure that the people who really deserve the money are the people who actually get the money. So I think that was one thing that actually came out. Another thing that was tied to health, around that time was the time when USAID actually withdrew its funding. And that left actually a gap of somewhere between 30.9 billion. So what that meant is we needed to see the BPS coming to alive to this factor, because that's money that was set at how the government does is that there are money that they can resource, and then there is money that comes from partners. So USAID was actually a partner who is a heavy in health. So by the fact that that fund was withdrawn, I think we needed to see the government taking into consideration that gap, but that was not very evident. And I think that was one of the things that was really concerning, because most of the people I know we actually saw in news that people who maybe were tied to health programs like HIV and the likes were actually suffering, because most of those funding were going towards such departments. So I think that was one of the gaps that we actually saw, and maybe one that is tied to the fact that we are young people and we really need to engage in the budget process, is that I think the budget process is one that is not very digital savvy. So when you think about how you'd want the government to engage the people, it's not how they actually engage. So how it's done is that they maybe place an advertisement on a newspaper, and the assumption is that people will see and engage. But I think as times have proven, there are a lot of young people out here, and you might not always get them in news or in some of these digital mainstream media that the government is using. So I think there's also been a push from civil society actors just to ensure that government is responding to some of these things and maybe embracing technology in terms of how they engage citizens. And I think one of the examples that is really given is maybe when the impeachment process was going on, like we really saw public participation coming to the grassroots level. So if that's the same level we can use when we do our public participation that is tied to budget document, then that would really be efficient, just to ensure that everybody gives their input and all considerations are actually taken in hand. So I think for starters, I can just highlight those, and I can add more as we continue.
Okay, thank you so much, Eve, for that. And I like what Budgeti does, because their work is centered around making budgets work for citizens. Because again, she's mentioned the issue of USAID pulling out, right? It has left us in a very tough situation, because those are just, they'll give us the money but get stuck when they pull out. So, and you've mentioned something on public participation, which now takes me next to my counterpart from Budget Talk. No, let me go with Bunge, because them, they do a lot of public participation and they engage with citizens quite a lot. So how is the public participation situation in your own view, in the budget making process at both county and national level? How does that really look like?
Thank you very much. As I articulated earlier before, that we deal with communities. It is a sad state of affair in terms of public participation, especially at the grassroots. Just last year, we were part of the Okoa Uchumi at the national level. And what we noticed that those stakeholders who come to the national level are either organized or civil societies. Trying to find individuals, especially that Mama Mboga, that Boda guy at the national level, discussing or articulating issues in regards to budget, especially at the national level, it's quite something that we have not seen. Talking about county budget also is something that we are trying to push. County governments are they're trying to safeguard these spaces by putting these public participation spaces at the sub-county level. But as an organization, we have done memorandums, we have done letters that county government must take this conversation back to the ward level, where each voice can be counted. We know that public participation has been articulated in the Constitution under Article 201A, where also in the PFM Act, that before any financial document has been taken to, it has to go through the people. But what we are seeing is that despite the government putting mechanism in places, doing the budget policy papers, calling citizens for this public participation, and also taking it to the grassroots, as they put it. Unfortunately, when they do that, they go to urban areas in these different counties. They do not hit at the grassroots where the conversation really needs to get to. We have seen that even the people themselves are not coming out to participate. Why? Because of awareness, as my sister here has put across. They tend to put it in the newspapers. When was the last time you as an individual bought a newspaper? They do it on Facebook, but actually they do it just as a formality, right? Do they also break down these documents in a language that a common mwananchi can understand? Do they do that? They don't. Do they give us enough time to go through these documents? They don't. So I think public participation is something that we need to work around it, and also putting in place so much strength and effort to do civic education. Apart from civic education, also the political education, because what we did last year was as a result of civic education, us going for public participation. But at the end of the day, did they hear our inputs? Now we went to the street to put our political statement that what we are saying through the public participation has to be heard. So as an organization, we are transiting from civic education to political education, so that after people have put in their views in regards to these documents, what else? Because it can go to the county assembly, it can go to the national assembly, to the Senate, and still our views cannot be to be heard. So we need to do a political movement that at the end of the day, we put our statement out there so that the leaders can understand what we the people stand for.
Just what do you think we've done right in public participation in just engaging? What do you think we've done right?
That's a very trivial question because in my opinion, I think we still have a very long way to go. Being someone that has participated in numerous public participation forums, that got us to a point for us to decide that this is not the right way to go. The physical forums are not enough. They are not being conducted in a meaningful manner. How many here have been in a public participation forum before, so that at least we are on the same page? Yeah, so several of you have been to one. Most of the times you'll find that it's a rubber stamping type of experience where they'll come and talk about the document that is in question. And most of the times the citizens who are the participants do not even understand what that particular document is about. I'll give you an example. There's once I attended a public participation on the CFSP, the County Fiscal Strategy paper, which is the equivalent to the B+ that Irene had talked about. That's on the county level. And during that forum, the participants were suggesting projects. And at that particular point in the budget process, that is not the point to start giving out the projects that you want to be done. That project already happened in the CIDP, the County Integrated Development Plan, and the Annual Development Plan. So you see, at the end of the day, the engagement is not meaningful because we're here to talk about the sector ceilings that have been proposed by the county, but you see that the county facilitators are not even correcting the citizens. In fact, that day they sent a ward administrator to fill in for someone who was not able to make it to the venue. This was for Langata constituency. He was not able to even explain what the CFSP is. And you see, for them, they will not report that back to the Director of Economic Planning. They'll say, we did the event and it was very successful. We had 200 people who attended and so forth. Before, they used to offer bread, I think, and soda. In Nyandarua, I think, or Kirinyaga, yes, Kirinyaga, they usually give out 500 shillings to entice people to come for the forum. But some counties like Nairobi County don't do that. So you'll find people not coming. They were used to that system of being given handouts, and now the system has changed. So there's no need for me to leave my 8 to 5 job to come and talk about things. And I have the perception that the government doesn't do, or implement the things that I'm requesting for. So in my opinion, public participation needs to move from the physical forum. And COVID-19 was actually what brought us to Budget Talk Global. Formerly, we were KE Budget Talk, and we are beneficiaries of Budget Hub. That just shows you the power of institutions building other institutions that has got us here to have our own organization. So during that period, the spaces for public participation really shrunk. We were not allowed to meet in gatherings like this. So my co-founder and I decided, why not take this conversation online? We have the platforms, we have X, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, and the likes. So we started having these conversations online. Then later we decided, why not have an outward trajectory? Because it's not just KE Budget Talk. There's also Uganda, Tanzania, all nations in this world do budgets. And that's how Budget Talk Global came to be. So my point is, we don't have to remain with the physical forums. They are clearly not working. And even if you look at the proposals from the public that were made on the BPS, hardly will you find the input in the final approved document. So what are we doing at the end of the day? So we need to move from the physical forums to using technology or harnessing technology. And although Nairobi County has a lot of bad examples, they have one good example. They have a platform whereby it's called civic spaces, whereby you log in, you put your constituency, there's a code they give you, and then you give your input for the particular document in the budget process. And so, again, we also need to create a culture of engaging throughout the budget process, not just the annual development plan. Those are the ones I see people like, the annual development plan and the CIDP, where we are just saying, oh, tunataka barabara, tunataka healthcare, tunataka classroom, hapa na pale. We need to engage in the whole entire budget process, especially the implementation and audit. We need to track the things that they have committed to implement. Are we on schedule? I'll give another example. I was privileged to be part of the committee for developing the CIDP, the 5-year plan that we are implementing right now for Nairobi County. And my mandate there was to consolidate public participation report. That report has never seen the light of day. And I know exactly, it was arranged according to all the constitutions, down to ward level, according to all the needs and wants for all the citizens in those areas. But that you cannot find that report. And, you know, it would be imprudent of me to publish it because it was commissioned by the county. It is available, but it's not in the public domain. And I can attest that most of the things that were put into the CIDP, we are still lagging behind in terms of implementation, which brings the issue of prioritization. What is the county prioritizing? Is it in line with the needs of citizens? Yeah, because our governor may think that or suggest school feeding program is the most important. I'm not saying it's not the most important, but of course there are other needs that the citizens may require to be implemented with immediate effect. I also want to, before I finish, to just build up on what Irene was talking about, the budget policy statement, just for you guys to see the gravity of the situation. So the government plans to spend about 4.32 trillion. And what they plan to raise is 3.5 trillion. You can already see there's a deficit of 750 billion. Where is it going to come from? From me and you, through taxes. So for the domestic borrowing, it's about 530 billion, and then foreign borrowing is 220, around there. So you can imagine, and we can already see the effects from the the SHIP situation, and also the affordable housing. So what the government is trying to do is to translate that cost to the citizens, which may not be a very sustainable way to go. Because like Irene said, the poverty levels are increasing. Instead of retrogressing, they're increasing. So we need to be very proactive when it comes to safeguarding these public funds, because at the end of the day, it's going to come out from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You've actually highlighted some of the challenges that the citizens have with public participation, and just what CSOs go through trying to get public participation and our views out. And I like that you've said the institutional building. That's why we have coalitions like Okoa Uchumi, because then we get to help each other just find innovative ways. Just like now budget talk is a global, and we'll probably hear it in other countries, just looking at budgets and Africa in general and how we can get better. So my last question will go to my colleague from TISA. What initiatives in this Okoa Uchumi campaign currently are we running or planning to run to just, support the budget making process and engage citizens more? Maybe you can highlight to people what's in the works or what's in the pipeline somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Before I go there, I wanted to add on what my fellow panelists have mentioned. Because if we talk about the progress that we've made, it will be like we are standing on a point where we are saying, wow, we've really progressed, or we've made significant steps. However, last year, we remember there was a court case on the Finance Act 2023, and the High Court ruled on it, stating that there was no meaningful public participation. The issue of public participation was key, and to why the Finance Act 2023 was declared unconstitutional. Then, towards the end of the year, I think in the quarter 4, 2020, between, is it quarter 2? Yes, in quarter 2, 2024, we noticed that the Court of Appeal overturned that ruling. right? Stating that it was a very ambiguous statement that, if I can paraphrase, the Court of Appeal stated that there's no threshold for public participation in the country. And as people or players in this space and as citizens, I think that is a very worrying statement because it sets a precedent that can really change a lot of things going forward. Because, for instance, right now, the issue of public participation has risen again in the issue of the new education funding model, and HELB and the education fund, they tried to last Friday, 4th, there was some shadow public participation going around the universities, just a few of them. We know there are close to 70, and I think it was in 12 or thereabout, stating that that is now public participation. But ideally, at what point should public participation be done? Is it when implementation is going on or before implementation? So the issue of public participation, I think our government and as a country, we are still lacking behind. And the public participation bill or act is long overdue. Full implementation is long overdue, and Kenyans need to enjoy what is in that act and what is in the constitution. So I wanted to say, based on what we are seeing between the Court of Appeal and the High Court, and the rulings that are being changed here and there, don't be surprised if the new funding model also, they say that it met the threshold for public participation. Yeah. So that is an issue that I wanted to highlight. Another thing that I wanted to highlight is the timelines. The documents that are being published to the public that need public participation, some of these documents are really bulky. And sometimes the timelines. My colleagues sitting here, we should see them as experts in the PFM and governance space. However, if themselves they receive a document and they need to turn it around in 2 days, and for them to submit their recommendations on a specific document, and still I can say that it is hectic. It is really hectic to analyze a document, maybe 500 pages or 400 pages or even 200 pages in 2 or 1 day. It is really hectic. Now, what of the citizen, the common mwananchi? How long do you want the common mwananchi to go through that and understand it? While the experts should break it down, simplify it to them for their understanding, is when now they engage with those documents at with the right knowledge. So I think timelines is another challenge that is hindering proper public participation. So what is TISA doing? Yeah, TISA, we are alive to these challenges, and we realize that waiting till, for example, the finance bill is when you want to engage citizens on the issues around public finance management and issues around budgets, and even issues around corruptions or bills that are emanating from the parliament, proposals from the national treasury. This should be a continuous process. During a forum that we had in the People's Dialogue Festival, we said in one of the villages, the PFM village to be specific, we said that every issue is a budget issue. And if that is true to us, then it means the engagement must be sustained. So for TISA, one of the things that we are really working on together with our partners in the Okoa Uchumi coalition is sustained engagement with citizens. And one of the things that is happening currently is our continuous engagement at the county level with community-based organizations around the budgeting process, so that when these documents are coming, they are alive to them and they can contribute to them from the point of information, not just any other point, from the point of information and with evidence. when you are engaging government, you engage with evidence and with information. So that is one thing that we are trying to do at the moment. Another thing that we are leveraging on is working with the students, that is both university and TVET students, because we know what happened last year, and the voice of the youth is really strong, and being that their youths are over 70% of the population, if they are informed, if they are engaged, they can be the real change agents in the country. So right now, we are working with the universities across the country. It is something that we've started so that the youth can be alive to the budgeting process. Imagine if all the youths in this country, in TVETs, we started with TVETs and universities, and this conversation will spread. We realized in the PDF that high school students are really informed in issues governance. So we want that to trickle down so that the younger generation are more informed and are more engaged. Then again, another thing that we are doing, we are strategizing as the civil society and the experts working in the public finance management, so that we strengthen our networks to continue engaging with the government and with the government, parliamentarians, the National Treasury, the officers of the Controller of Budget, Auditor General, so that this, as much as we are training or engaging the citizens, the government side is equally engaged. We need responsiveness from the government. So that is something that we are doing, and we are after the analysis of the budget policy statement and the medium-term revenue strategy, we are seeing some signs, because the CS Treasury is always on television and is saying that they are going to borrow more domestically. It is going to increase, it is going to be a burden, and we know what that means. The private sector is going to be likely crowded out, and there's going to be serious effects to the economy. And that is going to trickle down to allocations in several other sectors. So we want to continue engaging with the government so that they get to understand that as people are paying taxes, what services are they getting? So I think that is what I can say.
Okay, thank you, Tom. That quite covers it. It's quite a comprehensive look into what TISA is trying to do, and just ways in which, under the Okoa Uchumi umbrella coalition, that we're trying to engage citizens, also just lend our voices, CSOs, into that budget making process, and just because this is something that everyone needs. Kama, let me switch to Kiswahili kidogo. Vile Gen Zs walitokea, it was a good movement, but these things we need to have information timely, and unfortunately sometimes the government thrives on when we do not have information. So it's also upon us as citizens of this nation to just look at these documents. That's why CSOs exist. Their work is to digest those big documents that you are given over Friday. You're told submission is Monday. You have just 2 days to look at 200 plus pages, right? So our work is to try and simplify that and help the citizens understand the technicality of government in a very simple way. Which other questions? I think now I would want the audience to ask questions, even if it's a clarification. You've had experts on public finance, experts on public participation, budgets, the budget process. So if you have a question, a comment, I think I'll open the floor to questions. Then I'll give my panelists time to close and answer your questions as well.
Thank you so much. My name is Justus Akero. Don't know if I'm Skiza. Mr. Okay. I'm Justus. I have a question. I think budget. Festival-Okoa Uchumi as a whole. Recently, there is a pronunciation that was made by the newly appointed chair of KRA, and I think the CS Treasury also said it, that there's a conversation that is going on to the future. This finance bill, haitakuwa, because it came from the whatever happened last year, where people rejected this finance bill. So there was a conversation that they want to do away with this finance bill thing. So in a very unlikely event that it happens, imetolewa. And we know that the main purpose of the finance bill is to generate money to finance the budget, of which we believe that every year the budget is revised because of the needs of the nation. Every year we assume that our needs zinaongezeka, or we have new things to implement every year that needs the budget to support. So in a very unlikely event that imetolewa, what next? The budget year. And then if I look at the second question, if I look at all the civil societies or all these organizations, the main thing that I always get from them is that everyone is advocating for a perfect economy. If you put all these things that each and every organization is advocating for, the end goal is to have a perfect economy. So my question is, do a perfect economy exist? Is there any nation? Because I've attended several events, I've been to several institutions, nimepitia through Bajeti Hub, nimesoma, nimepitia through Upmon, I did some course there. I've had confession from people from different nations, government officials, civil societies from different parts of the world. The end goal is just to get this perfect economy. Is there any nation across the world that has ever witnessed a perfect economy where there is no more calls for social justice, accountability, whatever, everything is just working for citizens? So in short, if nikitoa tax, I know that nitapata barabara, nikienda hospitali nitapata matibabu, nikienda shule nitapata masomo, nikimaliza masomo nitapata kazi, my life will move on. Hii imewahi fanyika kweli? Or what's the end goal of all these talks every now and then? Thank you.
Good question. And
Civil engineer, yes, and also a senior in astronomer and astrophysicist in this continent. We have only three, yes. Of three of them, I'm two of them. So let me ask my three questions very quickly. Number one, this issue of poverty line. I don't know what metrics that we are using in the country, because the World Bank argues that if you are spending less than 279 shillings per day, Kenya shillings, that's about $2.154 per day, then you are poor. I don't know how many people spend that one. Around 300 per day. If you're not spending that one, you need to work very hard. Yeah, so I don't know whether that's the same metrics we are using here. You can respond to that. And number two, I think also the question of the so-called the trouble we are having in our fiscal policy and all the troubles of taxes and everything. I think this question is so much systemic to an extent that it is no longer a question of finance bill phenomenon. It's a question of political phenomenon. The leaders we elect to represent us. You see, after we elect them, then we say we elect leaders to represent us. Then we want public participation to make decisions more effective than the leaders. Then why did you elect leaders? It means we are electing wrong leaders. You cannot elect leaders and then they always come back to our village to consult us. Why are they being paid? That's the question. We should not be in public participation all the time. These people are paid to think on our behalf. And that's why we elect them. They are good paid thinking allowance. Yeah. So, that's our case study. Ruto, right? President Ruto, currently is in Mount Kenya. Yes. And people rallying behind it chaotically. Yeah, I must say, side, that would be the better microphone. Check. Okay, you are now wise. So, very quickly, and then you realize the argument online is that these people are paid. The question is, how sure are we that they are not going to be paid in election to vote for the president, then the question becomes systemic. You get the narrative. So we must elect, before we do the grassroots mobilization, public participation, it starts from the voting process. Whom do we elect? That's the question. It is so sad in the 21st century, people like myself and my colleagues, we are trying to think of how we can do digital twins, quantum modeling, Internet of Things, machine learning, and augmented reality. And then somebody comes and politicizes such things. It is wrong. Thank you so much. Yango Lennox, the engineer.
Hi everyone. Hi engineer. Yes. My name is Mike Omboro from Bunge Mashinani. How many agree here by a show of hands that this session, being a physical session, is better and more effective than if we were called for a virtual session for this same session? Just by a show of hands. So around 98%, engineer, if I'm right, hesabu yangu imeenda vizuri. So around 98% of us believe that indeed having these physical conversations can never be replaced by virtual conversations. And why I'm saying this is because it's a thumbs up for us as civil society, because we are now getting it right in the online spaces. The conversations are now going on properly. If your job is actually bearing fruits, Okoa Uchumi, TISA, the conversations, if you go to social media, everyone is now talking about budgets, everyone is talking about a finance bill, and everyone believes that citizens must be represented. However, if you look at how the citizens view online conversations, vis-a-vis if they are in a physical place like this, talking about things that matter, then physical conversations will never be replaced by these online conversations. And why I'm saying this is now as civil society, we must now change gears, because when we meet in these spaces, we are actually and unfortunately preaching amongst the converted. Everyone here knows what we should be doing. Everyone here knows what a perfect economy is supposed to be. But when you go back to your village, because each one of you comes from a village in Kenya, it's only that we are in Nairobi now. If you go back to your village and visualize under a tree having these conversations, you will realize that you are a minority. People do not know these things. And so as civil society, we must be intentional about going back to the society, going back to our people. And I'm particularly encouraged by TISA, just as one of the examples under Okoa Uchumi. In the conversations now, we are seeing fish, the fish vendors of Gekomba market. We are seeing the traders who wanauzanga mtumba, but they are now being brought in these spaces. Wanaletewa an ambassador there, CS there, and having these conversations. This is the person who is now going to take these conversations to those Gekomba traders. So the challenge is, and I'm going to put it to the panelists, how must we remodel ourselves? Because it is a circular economy. Now we are getting it right online. How do we go back to the people, have these conversations? Because these Gen Zs, if they only made this noise online and they did not go to the streets, the finance bill would have passed. That one you can be sure and you can take it to the bank. So if the conversations are only going to be online, I think we will be losing it. Thank you.
Okay. So I read an article from the Eastleigh Voice News today in the morning, and it reads, quote unquote, recent audit reports have revealed that in 2021, Kenya's Ministry of Health entered into an agreement with the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust and the Export-Import Bank to procure 13.33 million COVID-19 vaccine doses at a cost of 7.46 billion. However, only 1.8 million doses were delivered, leaving an outstanding balance of 11.52 doses. Despite the government's later indication that it's no longer required the remaining doses, the contract terms obligated Kenya to pay for the full order. So this situation has resulted in an outstanding obligation of $64.88 million, which includes accrued interest over the years, penalties amounting to 0.59 million. So my question is, do the common wananchi know we are still paying for a COVID debt? How are you going to counter this? This is an article and I believe it's right because we don't publish wrong information from our media houses. Yeah, so how are you going to counter it?
Barizeni. Kwa majina naitwa Lea. Historia yangu na kuendea mbele yako. So hiyo wakati ulikuwa kwa hiyo public participation, ulikuwa umeenda kama normal mwananchi ama ulikuwa umeenda kama hiyo kofia ulikuwa umevalia yako? So na venye ulikuwa unaona watu wako confused, ulifanya nini kufanya watu wajue juu wanafaa kujua kuna hizo 4 stages of budget process? Kama hizo wanafaa kasi sasa tuko kwa third quarter, wanafaa kujua, did you do anything about it? Hiyo ndio tulikuwa question.
My name is Lydia Shibuya from the County Assembly's Forum, and I think I'll echo what he said. For you guys who are in this budget talk, budget hub, TISA, and all empowerment programs, I think you should work on a way where you can reach the villages so that people are aware of what is going on. For example, there is this public finance management bill and the victim protection bill, which is currently being passed, and I think that they're the latest bills. And most of the ideas are actually online. And for these bills to be impactful to us and to everyone else outside here, it is for us to give ideas on what we think about the bills, and it is being done online. Imagine we are ignoring the fact that we're being given a chance to comment on what we think about the bills. I think if I can ask, maybe 20% of us have commented on what we think about the bills. There is a public notice online that we should go through the bills and comment on what we think about it. Now, imagine if we are ignoring it and we know it is there, imagine what people from the villages are doing. And when that bill passes and we being read about it later on, we come to realize that there are a lot of changes to be made on the bill. We come to realize that there are a lot of changes to be made on the bills. I think I'm loud enough because I'm a content creator. So let me just speak loud. So by the time we realize that there are mistakes on the bills and there are things to be passed, to be changed on the bills, it will be too late. So I think for us Gen Zs, sometimes we are ignorant. I am part of the ignorant generation. So I think as per the finance bills and per the specific bills, let's go forward and let's comment on what we think. Let's read on the bills and let's comment on what we think so that it changes if need be. It changes before it passes. You get? And I insist on you people making the programs known back in the villages because we are advocating on so many things in town, but we still have our homes. You see, and we have people who are not educated. We have people who don't take time to look on the YouTube and all that, even though there are phones nowadays and all that. But still, we still need to go there and advocate what is right and what is wrong, what is to be done, all that. Again, my name is Lydia. Thank you for listening to me.
Answer the question. We'll start with Heidi.
Thanks. So I think I'll pick a few questions, and I know my other panelists will be able to address some of the questions. So the first question that was asked on the finance bill and the maybe intent that it's one of the documents that can be scrapped out, I think I can categorically say that it's not possible because the finance bill is one of the documents that actually forms the budget process. So there are key documents in the budget process, and there's actually a misconception that people believe that the 2023 or 2024 finance bill was the first. But I think those were the finance bills that came to light before. The finance bill has been there. It's a document that people have been deliberating on. It's only that it's not one of the most vocal documents that we get to know. Because the finance bill, maybe it's a document that is read in accompaniment with other documents. So I think maybe that's the reason why less people knew about the finance bill. But I think as per now, nobody doesn't know about the finance bill. So I guess it's become like one of the most eminent documents that people should be on the lookout for. And as you say, accompanies the So I think the other one that was asked by engineer. So I'll speak to two metrics that are used to, like, in a way, show the poverty line. So I know there's one that touches on the number of things people are able to have in a day. So the people who maybe they'll say they have one, they have two, they have three. So at average, I think we say that people are supposed to have three. And then we find people who have one. And then there's also a metric that touches on the food basket. And the food basket is basically, it shows maybe if you pick certain commodities, are people able to afford? So maybe if you pick sugar, certain things, and then this is the amount that it costs. So are people able to afford? And then based on those assessments, then they are able to say maybe these people are above or below the poverty line. But I think one crucial thing for us as civil society actors using to access is the income level. So we usually say that the income levels have not changed over time. And I think that is true. If you walked around maybe around Nairobi and even other parts of the country, you'll see that people are really struggling, and that is based on the fact that the income levels have not changed over time. So maybe that's also a metric that people can maybe access the poverty line. And I think I'll touch on the virtual engagement, because I know at Budget Hub we are very big on convening virtual engagement. And our argument has always been we can only bring so much people to a physical space like this. So maybe we can only bring people who are maybe around the geographical region, maybe people who are already in the space. But at times when it's a virtual meeting, then you have the potential to have everybody from around the country. And I think that has been true, and we've tested it with the budget campaign that we convened. And we get people from as far as Busia, people from northeastern coast, and it just goes to show you that this conversation is gaining momentum all over the country. But I think tied to your question on remodeling, we are also keen just not to keep the conversations at the online level, and we have what we call the regional budget hub. And I know EPR is one of the members of the Nairobi Eastern and Central Region Budget Hub, which is basically a platform that brings people from within the same region, and they're able now, maybe once in a while, they can convene meetings. They are able to mobilize people from their respective counties at the sub-county level, and even down to the ward level. So I think it's something that we are actually doing, and maybe as other organizations, it's something that you can borrow and you can just to see how it works. So I think for my case, I'll just speak with you and leave my other panelists to address the other questions.
Thank you so much for all those questions. I'll pick up from where I did left off. About the finance bill, for that to happen, we have to amend the law. That is the Constitution, the Public Finance Management Act, and the regulations of 2015. So for that to happen, it's going to take some time. It just can't happen at enshrined within the law. It's a constitutional requirement for the finance bill to always be churned out in every financial year. So unless the constitution is amended, it cannot happen. And then someone mentioned about the issue with the procurement for the COVID-19 vaccines. First of all, media has been known to also churn out some information that is incorrect. I think in 2022-2023 financial year, when the budget had just been read, the period we are just about to get into, May, June, the Star reported that the government has absorbed the whole entire budget, but what they wanted to mean was it has budgeted for. So you see there was an uproar online about that. So the media, sometimes you need to take it with a grain of salt, but with Budgeting Hub, they've been doing some engagements with journalists up to the grassroots level, that's community journalists across the whole country. So there's a whole team of media budget champions who have been taken through the budget process and are able to report on budget issues in a prudent way. So for that article, maybe it's something that we need to take up and try and track and see what happened to that amount, because that is not proper use of public funds. If the products were not delivered, I don't see why they should maintain the resources. However, procurement laws, you have to adhere to what you had agreed upon. That is the person who's doing the contracting and the person who's offering the service. You have to adhere to that. It's like a legal entity between the two parties. So it may be difficult, unless they take it to court, for them to be able to reclaim that amount of money that has been lost. Yeah. So the other question was about what I did when I encountered that situation at the Public Participation Forum. The first instance was the first time I ever attended a public participation forum, and it is what sparked my interest in this space. So it was on the annual development plan for 2018-2019. I used to do my advocacy around Bukuru Kwanjenga area. So I heard about it from the WhatsApp group, Bukuru Kwanjenga WhatsApp group. I was like, let me go and see, because I never used to understand why NGOs take up a huge burden of ensuring that these communities at grassroots level are able to access services that are supposed to be delivered by the government. So why are NGOs always fundraising, yet the government collects taxes and is not able to provide quality services to the public? So I took myself to a nearby public participation forum, and I printed the RDP, the whole document, 300 pages that Tom was talking about. And apart from the county commissioner who was doing the presentation, I'm the only other person out of 200 people who had the document. So the rest had not seen that document. So that's what sparked my interest in this space. So in the other instance for the CFSP, I took it upon myself to take them through the document, because the first instance I was a normal citizen, but the second time I was not. I had been taken through the whole budget process, and I was able to impart some knowledge to them. So that's what I did. And moving forward, we always take citizens within the groups that we've established through a document before the public participation forum, through those online forums. So we meet, we discuss a document, we do a memo, and then we send them off with the memo to the public participation forum. For me, I am not very keen on the physical gatherings, especially since the counties have been complaining that resources are scarce. They do not have money for public participation, although the law says something else about allocating a certain percentage towards civic engagement and public participation. They are still crying that resources are not enough. So they are, you'll find the executive side and the assembly side are both supposed to do public participation, but now they are merging them. So they are doing one forum instead of two. So resources are scarce. So instead of us waiting for government to create the spaces, we are creating the spaces ourselves. And like Irene said, the virtual thing is really working well, because you can talk to someone in Moyale, you know, on the BPS, as opposed to waiting for them to all of us to be convened in a physical forum, which is also very expensive. So it's just us trying to leverage or harness technology that is available to us to reach more people. So the other thing that Boro was saying, how can we adjust ourselves? Maybe we can do a hybrid. Yeah, sometimes physical forums work better than virtual, but how about we do both of them? Like now, we can be here convening and having this conversation, but there are people online who are not able to come for this forum and also participate. Yes, and then what Lennox was talking about, the poverty line, Irene has explained well, but there's an over-reliance of also depending on data or studies done by these foreign internationals, World Bank and the likes. So we need to move to a space whereby we're having updated data from our national data bureaus, like the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. I think the latest data is from 2023. Yes, so I think they picked it up. Before they used to do it after 10 years, releasing data after 10 years, population data. But now they're picking up the pace and releasing segmented data to the public. So at least in that area we've picked up. What we need to do is also integrate citizen-generated data. We have a wealth of data coming from the grassroots communities and from different parts of the country. We need to also incorporate that data into the decisions that we are making with regards to the budget process. Thank you.
Okay, briefly, to start with that. The KRA chair, former Governor Nderitu, was in good spaces. I'm referring to what Justice was saying. Justice was in 2 sessions last year, December, and early this year, January, and a session was organized by IPF. And quoting what he said, he was saying that in December, he was not the board chair. He was outside, but in January, early January, he was already the chair, or elected as the chair of the KRA board. He was saying that was his opinion. He said it is his opinion. According to him, there's no need of having annual finance bills. According to him, his opinion. However, our law states otherwise, and we know what the law states. On the issue of ideal economies or perfect economies, that one exists on paper. And he knows because he's an economist. That one exists on paper. There's no country that doesn't have debts. There's no country that does not tax. There's no country that does not borrow. So, however, the question should be the revenue that we generate from taxpayers, the loans that we borrow, what are they doing for the citizens? That is the real question. And as Okoa Uchumi, the stance has been, we do not have a revenue problem per se. If you look at what is happening, go to the KRA website and look at the trends of our revenue. It has been increasing. However, it increases with the budget. So expenditure trajectory is higher than the revenue trajectory, and that is where the problem is. And if you again look at what is happening is, you compare how recurrent expenditure is increasing vis-a-vis the development expenditure. The recurrent expenditure is way higher than the development expenditure. And if we had time, you could see that at some point the development expenditure is even going lower. And according to the PFM Act, development expenditure should not be 30% below the total budget. Currently, the 2024-2025 budget that is ongoing is 25.7%. Yeah, so that tells you where the rest of the money is going, and that is where the problem is. So we are, taxpayers are doing their part, no, though it is not as it is supposed to be. Some of us are not responsive, are not paying our dues, but the whatever is being collected is not being utilized properly, and that is where the problem is. And on the issue of debt, our public debt was 10 point, I think I noted it somewhere here. June last year, it was June 2023, end of June, when we were closing the finance year, it was 10.28 trillion. September last year, it had grown to 10.79 trillion. Then in December, it was 10.93 trillion. Then just the other day, the Treasury CS saying that it is now 11.2 trillion in January 2024. So on the issue of debt, our debt is really growing, and what she's saying could be true, though we've not recorded, we've not confirmed what is in that article. It could be true, and that could be one of the things that are increasing the issues of debt stock in the country. Just like the issue of Kimoare, the dam cases, debts were procured. However, the projects did not take place, and that is what is happening with most of our debts. So what is happening with TISA is we are doing what is called debt monitors training. It is a flagship program that we started last year. We started with the Kiambu and Makueni, Vihiga, and Nairobi counties. Though the numbers are still few, but we want this debt conversation to be a national conversation. So what people are saying about community engagement, we want it to be decentralized. And this can be possible when we partner with the community organizations, and also when we partner with young people, so that people know about the debt she's starting.
Yes, those are some of the things that we're trying to look at the debt issues.
I'll take less than a minute and answer the system. How organized are we as a community? Article 1 of the Constitution gives us the sovereignty. It allows us as the people to be organized. How organized are we as a community at the national level, so that we can be able to invite civil societies to our spaces without, asking for mobilization and all that. To answer to Michael there, hybrid, I think, is the way to go, doing the physical and the online one. Physical, basically addressing challenges in specific communities, and then if you're talking about the national issues, we can improve the online. Regarding the finance bill, I doubt if we can scrap off the finance bill. The discussion that we should have in the fitness, can we be doing it at least every 2 years, so that we can give it time for implementation. So I think those are my takes, and thank you.